All right, it is now championship week. We got the SEC championship coming up on Saturday. Georgia taking on Texas in a rematch. Last time these teams faced was in Austin, and it was a complete drubbing by Georgia that took it to Texas in that game. I honestly, in my opinion, don't see that changing. You know, Sean, you kind of swayed me from looking at the Texas a couple of weeks now. I had not really watched the full game outside of the Red River rivalry, and then you had the Michigan game early in the season, and then but sitting down and watching, and of course I watched this Georgia game when they played in the middle of the season. Um, when it comes down to Texas, I watched that A&M game the other night, and first, can Quinn Ewers stay healthy? I'm tired of seeing him leave these games hurt, needing MRIs and all this kind of stuff after the games are over and all this and that. And also, what do you look like when you play top tier talent? You look at who I think Georgia's the more tested team, right? And then you look at who Texas has played. You got a Michigan who's fell off. You go down, you got Oklahoma. What did they turn out to be? You got Georgia, who was a real test, and they blew you out. Then you took on Vandy. No other ranked team outside of that besides A&M last week, which was ranked at 20. And you saw how they looked on the field. Texas just seems like they have not really had a solid strength of schedule to back them up, so to speak, in this season. And every time they run into somebody, which was the only team that could run into them, which was Georgia, they just looked like they were shell shook as to what they wanted to do or could be on offense and defense. It wasn't like it was just a one-sided affair of some one position group or one side of the football that just didn't show up. It was literally the whole team just looked. They were showing video on the sideline during that game. I remember that vividly of people just looking like, "What are we doing? Where are we at?" What do y'all think about this game heading into championship Saturday?
Yeah, man, there's so many different angles you can look at this game when it comes to what's really going to happen on the field. And I think the last head-to-head matchup really tells the tale and what this weekend is going to become when it comes to Georgia versus Texas. And what we've learned from Texas is that the brand name is always going to be bigger than what they do on the field. And I feel like when you think about their head coach and Steve Sarkisian, when you think about their quarterback and Quinn Ewers, when you think about the receivers that they got in their top tier talent, even with the defense and playing big time ball, you always think of them one step above what they actually are playing on the field. And that's just because you just really want to give them more credit than what you want to give them. And I think that they've been exposed, and it actually was Georgia that exposed them in a weak performance from Georgia. You still got Georgia in this game as an underdog. So to
Yeah.
me, for Texas, for them to win this game, it's going to have to be, can we actually put what our expectations are on the field in a 60-minute game versus a team that really is going to come way more prepared than we are going to be on this Saturday. So that to me, what that says is, can Quinn Ewers, can you be mistake free? Can Shark as a coach, can you be the top tier coaching and play call that you've been in the
Yeah.
past? And can your defense hold up on the back end and hold Georgia to field goals rather than touchdowns? To all those questions, I say no. And that's just kind of what we've seen from them lately. And that's not that they haven't been winning. It's just they haven't been winning on the level that we expect them to be. So in this game right here versus Georgia, I expect them to be that same level, but I expect Georgia to be what they was the first time times 10. Let's clean up all the mistakes. Let's have our true identity in this moment and let's dominate from the beginning because we already know we can dominate this team. It's not no Georgia versus Alabama where Georgia has a thought in the back of their mind that we can't beat this team or we gotta beat this team this time type mentality. They're gonna come in this game fully prepared, fully ready, fully motivated, and fully ready to go. And as long as they don't make mistakes, Georgia, I think, is gonna win this game by 2 touchdowns minimum. So I got Georgia 35 to 24 in this game. And I think it's not going to be close. I think second half, third quarter, and fourth quarter, it's going to be apparent about which team is the better overall team. And like you said, Ben, Georgia's just way more tested. They know exactly where they want to be in this game. They know their identity, and I think they found everything they need. And especially if Carson Beck can be clean, man, this is going to be trouble for the Longhorns.
So anybody that's been around me for any period of time knows when it comes down to playing sports, especially football, I'm going to always say, even in the National Football League, it's hard to beat the same team twice. It's hard. It's just hard to do. There's too much film. You don't really have enough time during the season to change much when you're in the meat of the season, right? So Texas and Georgia met kind of getting into the meat of their seasons. And when you look at all the other teams that you have to play after that game, you got to prepare for them. So you don't really have time to say, hey, let's go and look back at this Georgia tape just in case we meet them in the SEC championship game. We didn't realize that this was going to be the matchup until Saturday night. So no one had time to prepare. So what are we doing now? We're preparing. What are you doing? The first time Georgia and Texas played, that game was won when the recruiting cycle 2 years ago ended. Okay, that's when that game was won. Texas has not brought any more recruits in, no more transfers. They ain't done and had a chance to do much more preparation to change the outcome from the last time y'all played. Now, with that being said, it's still hard to beat the same team twice, but Georgia has Kirby Smart, who is battle tested. This is basically a home game for Georgia in Atlanta. Now, Alabama's been able to overcome that every time they played Georgia in Atlanta, but that's Alabama under Nick Saban. That's not Georgia under Kirby Smart. But I am favoring Georgia in this game just because they've been there. I'm still not completely sold on Georgia as a complete unit. I am sold on them over Texas, but the way they looked against Georgia Tech, they need to string together a couple of quarters of good football back to back to get some momentum to let this home crowd really come in and push you over the top. Texas is not going to come in here and lay down and just let you whoop on them. But again, like I said, I don't think much has changed in Austin in the trenches on the offensive line and defensive line. Georgia's going to line up like they did. They're going to shift. Sarkisian's going to be ready for that shift that they did. But Kirby's shifting because he knows Sark is ready for the shift. He's still coming at him with grown men that I don't know if Texas can block, man. So I'm going to go a little closer than you, Drew, but I do have Georgia winning the game by 7. And more of a defensive battle, right? 24-17, 21-13, something like that. I don't see Texas from what I saw against A&M, even though they were on the road and the tensions were high and all this and that. I don't think A&M was what A&M's not Georgia, not even close to being Georgia, not even close. So give me Georgia by a tutty at home.
Yeah. Real quick, one point I want to make real quick, Van, is the reason why I give them this deficit, I think it could be a 2-touchdown deficit, 10-point, 14-point minimum type deficit for Texas, is because I don't know what they're going to be like if they get hit in the mouth again and how they're going to respond. I've seen them too many times in the last month, not even against, the big dogs, get hit in the mouth and really not have true answers, but withstood the fight of the game. And I feel like that's not what this game is going to be. Since that Tennessee game, and I watched that game from start to finish, I think Georgia has a different mindset on offense to where, yeah, we start off slow in certain moments. Yeah, we don't do what we're supposed to do in certain moments. But when we want to turn it on, we know how to turn it on. And it's not Carson Beck forcing the football and throwing all these interceptions and making all these turnovers. It's still him being the quarterback that we thought he would be from the beginning of the season. I feel like that X factor right there is what changes this game for Texas. Because the film shows whatever you want to show. But you've gotten less film of true Carson Beck on what he's going to be these last couple of weeks, even versus yourself in Texas and what he did against that game. He threw 3 interceptions in that game. And Georgia still won that game convincingly in my eyes. So to me, it feels like if Carson Beck is normal in this game and not turn the ball over, I don't even got to say you got to throw for 300 yards. But the way he can manage this game, Texas has to come on all cylinders 110%. They don't have time for a slow start or Quinn Ewers to get hurt, to your point, Van. They don't have time for that. Have the question in somebody's mind if Arch Manning should come in over Quinn Ewers in this moment. They have no time for that in this game. And I feel like that's the stuff that they have not overcome throughout this whole season, which is a detriment to coaching.
Yeah. And let's also not forget when Arch Manning did come in against Georgia, he got hit in the mouth. He got
Yeah,
popped.
he can't. Nah.
And he looked, his eyes look like, boss, I don't want no more of that. I
Yeah.
don't want no more of that. And that's what you got on Sunday. If Arch come in the game thinking that he may have to play, but he's scared, man, that's gonna hurt them too. I just don't think Texas has enough. And like you said, Drew, Georgia can have a bad game offensively and still be in the game. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They still
Yeah.
show that coaching. Like you said, that's the coaching. Georgia's coaching staff knows how to get around some of the intricacies that don't include good play at certain times in the game. But he's good enough. He's elite enough. Kirby Smart is elite enough of a coach to when it's time when you need it. And as a fan, when you're watching Georgia play, you should still have this sense of they're not out of it. They're not out of it. Even when
Yeah.
Bama had them up 28, I said it's too early. They are not out of it. They're going to always be in a game. And with the question marks that Texas has, and with Georgia having the ability to always be in a game or get back in the game at home with the type of what's at stake, and Kirby Smart already done this twice. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Sark is gonna have enough to get it done. I think Sark ends up looking back in that doggone mirror like, man. And then you got to think about this. If Georgia, let's just say Georgia beats them and beats them relatively soundly. I know the committee's going to put Texas in, but it's like, if y'all end up playing Georgia for a third time, are we going to see this again?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They will be there. You know, now, how hard is it to beat a team 3 times in a row? Even more difficult. But Texas's problem is in the trenches and in the backfield and in the quarterback room. It's in all the wrong places. Georgia's got all that stuff figured out. The things that Texas does not quite have figured out, that it looks like they're really good playing inferior competition, Georgia's had figured out 2 years ago. So, it's going to be good, closer, but Georgia still wins the game.
Yeah, my thing is, like you just mentioned, last game they didn't have a all-star like kind of show out offensive game last time they played. Carson Beck he threw for 175 yards and 3 interceptions in that game. There's a team they only rushed for 110 yards and still ended up beating you 30 to 15, which seemed like it should have been more than that watching the game live. And so I don't see Texas turning it around, and Georgia by far is, in my opinion, might be the best second half team I think I've ever seen in my life. As far as you go into the game plan playing Georgia, like what Bama did was they piled up as many points as they could in the first half and said we just got to hold the wave that's getting ready to happen in the second half, and that's how almost every other team has had to try to play them because by this time of the season you are who you are. You're not going to turn it around now and start getting off the fast starts now, but you are who you are as far as coming out, making adjustments at halftime, and then showing out in the second half and eliminating anything you did wrong in the first half while capitalizing on everything you needed to fix and correct in the second half to get the lead back or build on the little lead you might have right then and there to go win the game. But I do got Georgia winning it. I got a score of I got it 24-17. I like what you said. Give me a 7 point game in this one and see how they take it. Now, I'm pretty sure Sean, you just kind of mentioned it, Texas being still in if they lose, but is Georgia done with this? This will be their third loss. I'm not sure where in the rankings they're still. We're waiting for tomorrow to get the playoff committee rankings right now, but I don't think they would have dropped versus that game versus Georgia Tech being as close as it was. I don't see them pulling them down much to be that bubble tide. But if Georgia does by any shape of the means lose, are they done? They out for the second year in a row?
I think it's a conversation that the committee is going to have, especially with Bama having the head-to-head over them. We talk about
And
3
two, they
losses.
done.
Three
They
they
done.
done?
Yeah,
The
it's
head to
definitely a
head.
conversation.
Speaking of head to head, though, Sean, look at just the head to head. You lost to Bama, and you lost to Ole Miss,
Yeah.
Right. How
and
you
you're
going to
not
put
as
them in
high,
over them two? Right.
and you're not as high as South Carolina.
Yeah.
So I mean, just at the point of the season, it's a must win for Georgia. But to make a point real quick, Van, about what you said about Georgia being his best second half team, I
Hmm.
feel like you learn from your failures.
Yeah.
Because who has shown Georgia how to react in second half moments rather than Nick Saban and Alabama in SEC championships? He's the one that showed this team that, hey, you could be so much in the first half, but I'm gonna make these adjustments second half. That's gonna shut you up and shut you down. And Kirby Smart has learned from that moment. And I feel like this type of game is what Alabama was to Georgia. Georgia was that new SEC team that says, you know what, I've been here. We're ready for the moment. We're ready for the sunshine. We're ready for SEC championship and go to the national championship. And Bama say, you know what, you the little dog. You ain't ready for this yet. Let me shut the door on you. Let me go get this trophy for you. I feel like it's the same thing that Georgia's gonna do to Texas. Texas is that new dog that's saying, you know what, we're ready for primetime SEC ball. We've been the number one team in the country. We've been to the Final Four without SEC. We can still do it in the SEC, and they are proving that. But it's like in this moment, this is a totally new moment for this team in Texas, and it's a totally moment that Georgia has proven that they can excel in versus any other team except for the Big A. So I mean, to me, history shows that yes, just like Sean said, it's so tough to beat a team twice in the same season. But history has shown that the team that's more prepared for this game is the team that usually takes it home, and that's Kirby Smart in Georgia. Rather, regardless of their season, it's Georgia's always been that team of get them to the postseason. They're a different type of animal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Texas can lose this game and still get in. Georgia cannot. You know what I'm saying? You know, Kirby knows that. You know, Kirby gonna come. He gonna come out here swinging, y'all. Come out here swinging.
Unless Texas got something that just we ain't never seen before with this team, which I will be.
I don't see it.
Then I don't see them really winning this game unless it's by keeping it close, defensive matchup, late game field goal, late game touchdown type situation.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank y'all for tuning in. Stay tuned for these other championship games we got coming up, and we'll catch y'all next time.